Anger has erupted in Nigeria following the spate of xenophobic violence in South Africa. After Nigerians were among those attacked in Johannesburg and Pretoria in recent days, angry groups in the West African country have attacked South African businesses in response. Now, some of those firms have closed their stores amid the violence, but other Nigerians are calling for a more measured reaction.
Anger in Lagos, Nigeria, targeted at South African stores. They're responding to violent attacks in South Africa against foreigners, including Nigerians. Now some are turning to violence themselves.
We are protesting because of what South African government are doing to Nigerians. We are not happy over it because we are good citizens in partnership with them.
Some of the angry Nigerian youths, hurriedly went into the ShopRite because of what has been happening.
South African franchise ShopRite was among those targeted. The company closed several of its stores due to the damage. In the capital, Abuja, clashes at a ShopRite supermarket there brought traffic to a standstill after demonstrators burned tyres and threw rocks at the store. In Lagos, groups were seen stopping cars and attacking drivers believed to be South African. Others called for a stronger response from Nigeria's government.
Let me use our leader, Buhari. You should not keep quiet. The first day you need to talk. You need to give Nigerians, come out and speak to Nigerians and say, this is what we are doing. When you keep quiet, you leave no options for the people to do something. And when the people want to do something, they're not going to carry out a peaceful protest per se. They're going to want to react.
Our president, Mr. Muhammadu Buhari, should do something urgent to save lives. Because if this thing continues like this, it may cause war.
Nigeria has stepped up security around South African stores amid concern that anger could again simmer over into violence. Meanwhile, the government has said it will send a special envoy to deliver its condemnation directly to South Africa.
For more on this, we're joined by Professor Kialiboga Mapunye from Pretoria. He's a political scientist at the University of South Africa. Hello, Professor. Many thanks for your time. Now, there's been retaliation in Nigeria against South African businesses. But surely, violence is not the solution to violence, is it?
Violence is definitely not the solution. We hope and believe that Africans, especially those in South Africa here, not only the government, the civil society bodies and everyone here involved in this current violence that's engulfing the country, will come to their senses, literally, and be able to deal with this issue in a way that befits, the status of the continent. And retaliation and counter-retaliation, in my view, is not going to cause any solution. As they say, an eye for an eye makes the world go blind. So we don't want to go that route, surely.
Okay, now let's listen to a clip from President Ramaphosa.
The attacks on people who run businesses from foreign nationals is something that's totally unacceptable. It's something that we cannot allow to happen in South Africa, where people who are running their own businesses are attacked and their businesses are destroyed through looting and being firebombed, something that is completely against the ethos that we as South Africans espouse.
So, Professor, we heard him there. He has condemned the attacks, but how can his government gain control of the situation?
There are many ways in which his government can gain control. Condemnation itself, in political terms and in diplomatic terms, perhaps that suffices. But we need, thorough going solutions. We need practical, strategies to deal with this. One way is to ensure that the government in South Africa has got what is called the JCPS. This is the Justice, Crime, Peace and Security Cluster. This is the cluster of ministries that deal with issues to do with security and safety and related matters. They have to come up with clear strategies to contain the situation. We are aware that this kind of, flare-up of violence and xenophobic attacks, in my view, actually, they are Afrophobic attacks. In other words, they are mostly targeting, black Africans from other African countries, even though they are also targeting Pakistanis and Afghanis and so on. So these attacks, in my view, have not just started recently or yesterday. They started around 2000, just after 1994. And so you need to get to the root, causes of this. Some of the root causes of this kind of, these kinds of attacks, as we talk to people on the ground, they say that it's because of competition between, foreign, mostly undocumented or illegal, migrants or foreigners and South Africans. So they have to deal with this. The other issue is, corruption within the security cluster, especially in terms of the police and the customs immigration officials who accept bribes and allow people that shouldn't. So basically, that is the strategy that I think they need to deal with, including civil society organizations as well.
Okay, now there's increasing pressure on South Africa from celebrities, politicians, and ordinary citizens. What impact could this have on the situation?
Far-reaching impact. In my view, for as long as these celebrities, politicians, diplomats, and so on, people from the African Union, SADC, and other countries, even the UN, yesterday we had from the Secretary General of the UN General Assembly, all these will bring to bear pressure on South Africa. They are commendable. However, we need homegrown solutions. The South Africans themselves, civil society bodies and other organizations, churches, religious bodies, they must stand up and address this issue, the root cause, as I keep returning to this point.
Okay. Now, what about the African Union? They keep condemning the attacks, but what practically can they do to help deal with this?
Perhaps, in my view, we need not only just the condemnation by the African Union or some leaders, like in Zambia, we had that they condemned the attacks, maybe Malawi, Botswana, and so on. We need much more than that. I think we need an African, task force of some sort that will help South Africa to work closely with South Africa to address the root causes of this issue. It's almost like that problem of the migrants that are in the Mediterranean who keep jumping to the sea, and of course some of them dying in the Mediterranean. The same thing. I tend to think that the current situation in South Africa is a crisis that requires much more than condemnation. They need to come up with some kind of a force which will comprise also South African forces to deal with the issue.
Okay. Professor Mapunye, political scientist, University of South Africa in Pretoria. Many thanks for your time.